What's up, YouTube? It's Joe Catchpolia sitting on the couch making some money investing in fractional real estate online. As usual, today is Friday, so it's time for this week's installment of the 52-week challenge. This is where I share with you all the fractional real estate I bought this week, and you can share with me as well in the Discord or in the comments to this video, or quite a few of you had decided to just do it through the DMs, and that's fine as well. It's just a way of sort of having a virtual accountability group, so we're not just doing a lot of analysis and not actually pulling the trigger on deals. But anyway, if you want a little bit longer explanation, if you click on the playlist for the 52-week challenge on my channel, the first video in that playlist will explain my thought process there. So jumping in, what did I buy this week? Bought some properties on Lofty. Bought a LRO on ground floor, bought a property on Real Bricks, and bought a property on Arc 7. So those last two platforms, it'll be the first time I'm talking about buying them in a 52-week challenge. I think I mentioned them when I was going through my portfolio the other day in a separate video. But anyway, I bought a couple of, actually maybe just one or two tokens in South Solano Drive. This is the multifamily property. It's on Lofty. It's one, let's see, where is it? Yeah, Las Cruces, New Mexico. This is, again, on Lofty, almost all my purchases are just motivated by, I think we're getting a good discount to the real world value. I think that's true here. I think we're getting a discount because, Ario, the co-owner, transferred the mortgage responsibility to us in the DAO, and the DAO voted for it. So, I didn't think that was a great decision, but we did that. There's supposed to be a refinance. It doesn't seem to be in the works. And then there's also been some vacancy and CapEx issues. I think we're going to get past those. This is a property, I think if you just looked at the property itself and you wanted to buy it all cash, it would make a lot of sense. It doesn't make a ton of sense with the current financing. It's not horrible, but it's not much of a deal. And so, at least, if you're talking about $50 tokens at $25 or $26, which is where I'm buying these at, to me, makes a ton of sense. Before I forget, please like and subscribe. In the description of this video, you'll see links to all the places where I'm currently invested in fractional real estate online. Please do your own due diligence on any of those platforms, any of the properties you see on there. Just because I'm buying this stuff doesn't mean that you should. Just because I trust a specific platform, it's not an endorsement. You should check those out yourself. And also in the description of this video, I have a link set up to Discord that has a whole bunch of us fractional real estate investors discussing lots of different platforms and properties. So please feel free to join that. It's free. It's not a sales funnel. It's really just, I'm trying to create a community so we can all share info, talk about our strategies, that sort of thing. Okay. So again, South Solano Drive, really just driven by, I think the property itself makes sense, at the price per token that I'm paying. I bought some more tokens in Umland Circle on Lofty. So this is the one, and you can see I'm on, this is Lofty Assist, not actually Lofty that I'm looking at these properties. I just think they do a much better job of presenting the info. You can see he's flagged this one. Okay, there's an outstanding water bill of over $30,000. The current co-owner, who is also responsible for the mortgage, seems to be having a lot of difficulty with their finances. Looks like there's some IRS liens in there, maybe on this property now. Obviously this is behind. They're having some issues with the mortgage. All of those are a problem. In my mind, they're all surmountable, right? I mean, like a $30,000 water bill, it's not really that much money compared, when you're talking about a $1.3 million property, right? The same thing with, if we have to get caught up on the mortgage, it isn't, I think all of those things are things that we can overcome. And when, my average token, my average basis is around $15, including fees and everything on these tokens. It just seems like a good bet on being able to solve these problems. Now, obviously it's possible that I just lose all this money, right? Like the mortgage goes into default, gets foreclosed on, it's a fire sale. We can't, get a good enough deal. But if you think about the outstanding loan, compared to this is the appraised value, the most recent appraised value, there's a lot of cushion in there. And so in my mind, yeah, this is just a bet on there's equity. I don't think this is a great investment property, even if you watch my first video on this. I never thought it made a ton of sense as a short-term rental when you looked at the revenue relative to the price and the revenue relative to the the mortgage payment and all that. But there's just a certain point where something becomes so cheap that I think that there's an opportunity to just buy those tokens, and hopefully, whether we do fire sale this or someone comes in, he figures out a way to pay off the mortgage, or catch up the mortgage, pay off the water bill, get it running again, and those tokens just pop even a little bit. It could be a nice deal. And I've already actually I've bought and sold some tokens already on here because the price moved up to a point where it's a decent profit, and even at this 18. It is a profit to my current token price. Now, I don't know what would happen, what that starts to look like as I sell. How much money is in there's hardly any liquidity in this pool, right? So I could only sell a few tokens before that basically crashes to zero. And I think that's sort of what's going on there. Anyway, maybe I'm a little too optimistic about this. Maybe that, this doesn't seem like an insurmountable number. If there's really equity there in the property, and it appears to me that there is. Like I said, obviously I could be wrong about that. We'll have to see, but that's on all of these platforms. I am experimenting, right? I'm, and it's so far on Lofty, I've done very well. I've had some losses. There's tons of risk, right? And I talk about that in all my Lofty videos. This is just like, they closed on this without going through a normal closing process, and that's what they do on all their deals. And so something like a huge past water bill that would get caught in a typical closing gets passed up within their process. It's just it's because they don't have an experienced real estate person on their team to sort of try to figure these issues out ahead of time. And they're quite often just, in my mind, taking shortcuts as far as, the way they're trying to make transactions happen. And so, it creates a whole bunch more risk in the system than there needs to be. At the same time, this seems like too cheap. It doesn't, the property itself, the value should still be there, right? There's no, yes, subtract $30,000 from the value because that's going to get paid to make it work. Although it should be Craig that pays that. That's the co-owner. But at the end of the day, if the DAO had to do it, that's to save $400,000 or $500,000 in equity. I think it would be worth it to do that. And I know there's plenty of us on the platform that do have cash that we could step in and do these things. If it seemed like it made sense, right? If there's sufficient profit to be made, and so that's why if I might keep buying these as whenever the really cheap ones come up, knowing that if I really needed to, I could I could be part of that solution, right? I don't know that I necessarily want to, but I just can't pass up the. Yield is temporary, right? Basis is forever. So, okay, there's no yield on the property right now. And we're probably accumulating some expenses, as time goes on. But I just believe that, at the right price, and yeah, it could go to zero because there is debt. And debt, leverage always creates the risk of your deal going to zero much faster. But it's, I'm not investing a ton in it, and it to me it seems like it's worthwhile at the price point where I'm buying. That's all I'm going to say about that. Okay, ground floor. I only bought a piece of one LRO. I think it was the only one that came up. I didn't do a whole lot of digging into it. This is where I'm still just trying to get maximum diversification. Right, I'm up to 120 total loans now. getting close to where I had been, but with, where I still have more cash in here. And so, just a little bit until that's used up, I'm not going to put more on here, but I'm pretty pleased that we're starting to get to a point where we've got a decent amount of diversification. Like, my goal has always been to get this to like 150 to 200. It seems like, based on a lot of comments that they've made, that that's a reasonable goal. Maybe not, though, because the first time I got up to like 126 or 127, I had that artificial payoff come through where they basically just took a whole bunch of the LROs and moved them to another product. As long as that doesn't happen again, though, and these keep chugging along, I still haven't had a single default. Not one. I realize, based on some discussions with some other people, that I've probably been very lucky not having any defaults. I think that artificial payoff saved me from a bunch because I had a lot of extended ones that got paid off in that process. I do have 15 loans that are extended now. That might be my highest percent. I'm not positive about that, but so, they go into extended before they go into default. We'll see, but so far so good. I've been getting, good returns on all the ones that have closed or, gone full cycle and paid off. And that's been the majority of them so far. All right. So, and if you want to, I know I keep mentioning that artificial payoff. I have a separate playlist for ground floor. If you want to check that out, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about, with that. All right. I bought one property on Real Bricks. I talked a little bit about this when I was doing this state of my portfolio. I don't really recommend Real Bricks. I pay a lot of attention. I'm in the ORAT school community. I talk to a lot of those people. Mark, who does Fractional Friday with me, is really heavily involved in there. And I know that they are, Real Bricks has been on Zuber's channel quite a bit. And, he's got that deal where you get $50 on your first investment. So I made $100 investment, should get $50 free. I don't know where that actually comes from, because right now my account is just showing the $100 that I bought in here. This is one that I just can't figure out. And I think I actually did a video on this particular one, and it doesn't make sense to me how they're able to pay out 6%. Although it is 6% based on the property value, I think, not based on the total investment, if I remember correctly. But so, yeah, I mean, this is very much just an experiment. It's to take advantage of that bonus money. I'm not part of their affiliate program. Like, I don't have a link for you to use it, because if you do it with them, when you sign up with it, they make you fill out something that says you won't share any other links, for other competitors. And I think that's ridiculous. But I think the ORAT one is ORAAT 50. So if you want to use theirs, I think that's you can go ahead and do that. But it is, for spending $100 and maybe getting 50 free. And honestly, though, I think it's another 50 in shares in this property. And if the property doesn't work out, well, then maybe it all is worthless, right? So I don't know. But I think it at least gives you a little bit of a cushion. I'd really love if they could just answer some very basic questions about the math on how these deals work, because they just don't make sense to me. And so it's hard for me to get excited about it. But I did buy a little bit of this property. And then the last thing I made, my first purchase on ARC 7. Oh, come on. They log you out so quick. Okay, now I got to go back to, can I go do it? Yeah, if you do it through here. Yeah, and you can see I only bought a little bit of it, right? It is this, the Alexandria C2. I wanted to make sure I just bought one of these. I didn't do, I wanted to make sure I understood how their thing worked. I put the order in a couple of days ago, and it just went through today. I don't know why. It seemed like it should have closed yesterday. I don't know if it was because my money actually hadn't hit the account, but it's really just a matter of they're starting to have some discounts in their marketplace, that, where before, they have pretty low yields on everything. If you look at, their stated yields, they haven't been great. But I think if you combine, some of their okay yields, with also getting a discount, when you're buying these, and this isn't a huge discount, right? It's a 15% discount from the IPO value, but if you remember, there's a ton of expense built into that. So I'm not like really excited about getting this at the 15% off, because when I looked at the real world value, to me, it's like, okay, I'm getting a very slight discount to the real world value. But now I'm going to start working at trying to snipe these, just kind of like I do on Lofty, right? Just trying to pay more attention and buy in whenever there's, ones that I think are a little bit more compelling. So you can see, somebody's trying to buy these for $75 a share. Yeah, I think if somebody sells those to them, that's pretty exciting. I mean, and I'm just trying to get a little bit more familiar with the platform, because at first there weren't really any, they were like very tiny discounts, but now they're starting to grow and grow. And I think over time, we might start to get some of the same opportunities here where, none of these are tremendous yielders. And so if that's what people bought them for, and they need to cash out, we have the opportunity to buy in. And so, I don't know, I thought it was worth a try. Just dipping my toes in the water here. But it is going to be something that I try to do a little bit more in the future. And I know a couple of you guys have talked about Arc 7 in our Discord. If you're in there and you've been buying these, or if you haven't, right, but if you've been on Arc 7, I'm super curious if you've gotten like how active this trading is, right? Like I haven't, like I said, that was the first order I put in. So it was the first time it looked like, I actually think I put in an order quite a while back, that just like never got filled, if I remember correctly, because I was just trying to pick a number that was like way below, their asks. But now you're starting to see like larger amounts trying to sell at discounts. And I mean, maybe this one, right? I think this is. But I think the more that we see that, the more this is late, right? Was this one originally 100, and now you get a whole bunch trying to sell at 85? Yeah, so seems to me there might be opportunities, right? It's still not, it's not Lofty level where you're getting like 80% off of their original amount, and maybe 20 or 30% off of what I think the real world value is, but. Maybe it's just a matter of time before we get there. I don't necessarily think that's the case because they're run a lot differently. But I think if you're getting an okay yield, not a fantastic yield, but an okay yield, and they've been, able to do it on a consistent basis, and on top of that, I'm able to buy at a 15 or 20 or 30% discount, not just to their IPO value, right? And that's what you have to be careful of. Their IPO value doesn't necessarily have anything to do with your, the intrinsic value of the property, right? So, like I said, that one that I bought, okay, it's 15% off of the IPO value, but I really only think it's a few $1,000 lower than the real world value of the property. But it's something, right? And it's, if you were to buy that in real life and you had closing costs, and I mean, I think it's worth it there to at least start to experiment. But really, I think before I get super excited, I'd have to be, starting to buy big chunks, I'd really want to be at like 20, 25%. And so now that I'm getting a little bit more familiar with how it works, I'll probably put some orders in to do that and see how that goes. But yeah, I am super curious if anybody else already is doing that, to hear your thoughts on it. Anyway, that is everything that I bought this week. Please share in the comments or in the Discord, what you bought. Until next time, I'm going to just keep making mistakes so that you don't have to.